So what do businesses need to know about the Chancellor's mini budget? Hello, I'm Dominic Walker. Welcome to JMW's Inside Man YouTube channel. Please subscribe to the channel, like this video, keep the conversation going in the comments section as well. So Paul Chamberlain is the head of employment law here at JMW Solicitors. So Paul, the Chancellor's mini budget wasn't that long ago, but it feels like a long time ago, really. What are the headlines that businesses need to know about?
Thanks, Dominic. Yeah, it does feel like an age ago, doesn't it? I mean, from an employment law perspective, I think we can say there are four broad areas that the mini budget has covered. The one that I think was expected was the announcement in relation to off-payroll working. People will know that as the IR35 rules. Bit of a misconception about this, though. I've seen articles suggesting that the IR35 rules are going to be repealed. They're not going to be repealed. All that's going to happen is that the relatively recent changes made in 17-18 are going to be repealed, but we will still have IR35. So disguised employment will still be an issue. What will change is that under the current rules, it's the end user, it's the organisation for which the limited company contractor provides their services who has to make a determination of their employment status. What is going to change is that responsibility will fall back to the limited company contractor itself. So the end user won't be responsible for making the employment status determination. It will go back to the limited company. And the big issue there is going to be for limited companies who think, well, this is a panacea, we can go back to the way things used to be. If the end user clients made a status determination that says the individual is inside IR35, it's probably going to be very difficult if the assignment or the contract remains the same, for the limited company then to say, well, our assessment is that we fall outside of IR35. So that's a really big issue in relation to IR35. So that's the biggest announcement, I think. There was an announcement as well in relation to industrial action. The government want to change the rules around pay offers. What they're saying is that trade unions will be under an obligation to put pay offers to a vote of members before they can ballot for strike action. And the intention there is that a strike could only then be called once the pay negotiations have broken down. And that's going to be helpful to employers where they'd like to be able to put the pay offers directly to employees, but in doing so, that risks liability for what's called unlawful inducement to sidestep collective bargaining. So a good example of where the government is trying to make it more difficult for strikes to happen. The third area, which I think will be of relevance to employers, certainly in the banking sector, is, you might recall, the announcement to lift caps on bonuses for certain financial services executives. That cap is going to be removed, and there's a lot of political flack around as to whether or not that's a good or a bad thing. And then again, everybody was aware of this, but it's causing some political headaches for the government. The previously announced national insurance rise is effectively going to be scrapped. So the NI increase that was brought in to fund health and social care, that came into effect in April of this year, that's going to be reversed from the 6th of November.
And just going back to IR35, Paul, is that good news for companies?
I think if you're an end user, so if you're a company that has historically used limited company contractors, I think it potentially is a positive development for you, because the obligation, it will no longer be on you to make the status determination for that limited company contractor. There were lots of end users who just decided when the rules changed back in 17-18, they decided that they weren't going to use limited company contractors at all because they didn't want the headache or the risk of making the wrong determination. So I think if the obligation to make the determination goes back down the supply chain to the limited company contractor, you may well find that more end users are willing to engage with limited company contractors. Certainly the limited company contractor cohort is very pleased with the change of direction that the government have announced.
And Paul, how can you and the employment law team at JMW Solicitors help companies who wish to engage contractors?
Well, we can assist with a general assessment of the IR35 requirements. We can help with status determinations, and we can give general advice in relation to employment status across the piece. What we will tend to do in relation to the detailed tax provisions is use our external tax consultant, but we can certainly assist in terms of reviewing contracts and giving general advice around IR35.
Thank you for your insight, Paul. And if you'd like to speak to Paul, you can email insideman@jmw.co.uk or call 0161 82 81 999. And please also subscribe to the JMW Inside Man YouTube channel for the latest legal news and tips. I'm Dominic Walker, JMW's Inside Man.